The hangar went dead silent. Admiral Reva Blackwood had just made the biggest mistake of her career, mocking a tired woman in jeans holding a toddler. But when that woman quietly said 2 words, "Steel Widow," every Navy SEAL in the room stopped breathing. Because they knew. They knew what happened in the mountains of Afghanistan. They knew about the fire, the bodies, the impossible choice. And they knew Admiral Blackwood had been there too, the day she left those men behind. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because this story gets darker than you can imagine. And comment below what city you're watching from so I can see how far Steel Widow's truth travels. Now let's go back to where it all started. Admiral Reva Blackwood stood at the podium scanning the crowd with that particular smile of someone who knew they owned the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today to honor." A baby started crying in the back. Blackwood stopped mid-sentence, her smile tightening. She squinted toward the sound, and that's when she saw her. A woman in jeans and a gray hoodie holding a toddler. Tired eyes, calloused hands. She looked like she'd just come from changing oil in someone's garage. "Ma'am?" Blackwood called out, her voice carrying that edge of authority mixed with amusement. "Perhaps the daycare would be more appropriate for your little one." A few people laughed nervously. The woman didn't respond, just kept bouncing the child gently, trying to quiet her. Blackwood felt something twist in her chest. Irritation, maybe, or something older. Something that whispered this woman didn't belong here in this space with these warriors. "I didn't catch your name." Blackwood continued, unable to stop herself now. The spotlight was hers. The crowd was watching. "Are you here with someone? A husband, perhaps?" "He's not here," the woman said quietly. "Deployed?" Blackwood asked, injecting sympathy into her voice. "Well, we appreciate the families who..." "Dead." The word landed like a stone in still water. Blackwood blinked. I'm sorry for your loss. Was he..." "SEAL," the woman said. "Team 3. "Ah." Blackwood nodded, softening her expression for the cameras. "Then you understand what we're honoring today. The sacrifice. Do you..." The question was so quiet, so unexpected, that Blackwood almost didn't register it. "Excuse me. Do you understand sacrifice, Admiral?" The woman's gray-blue eyes met hers for the first time. "Or do you just talk about it?" The temperature in the hangar seemed to drop 10 degrees. A Master Chief in the 3rd row sat up straighter, his attention suddenly laser-focused on the woman in back. Blackwood forced a smile. "Ma'am, I don't think this is the time or place for..." "You're right," the woman interrupted. "It's never the right time, is it? Never the right place. That's how it stays buried." "I'm sorry. Who are you exactly?" Blackwood's voice had an edge now. "Nobody." The woman shifted the toddler to her other hip. "I fix boats at the marina. I change diapers. I go to the commissary and buy groceries like every other military spouse." "Then perhaps... but I used to be someone." The woman took a step forward, and something in the way she moved made several SEALs in the crowd turn to look. "I used to be the person you called when everything went to hell and someone needed to walk into the fire." Blackwood's smile was gone now. "What's your name? Does it matter?" The woman's voice was still quiet, but it carried. "You've already decided what I am. Tired. Insignificant. Someone who doesn't deserve to be in this room with the real warriors." "I never said. You didn't have to." The woman's eyes were cold now. "You looked at me and saw a woman in stained jeans holding a baby. You saw someone who couldn't possibly understand what happens downrange. Someone who doesn't belong." A lieutenant commander in the front row leaned over to his buddy. "Holy shit, is that..." "Can't be," the buddy whispered back. "She retired years ago." Blackwood gripped the podium. "Ma'am, if you have something to say..." "They gave me a call sign once," the woman said. "Back when I was someone. Back before I became invisible." "And what was it?" Blackwood asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Soccer mom snack pack. The crowd laughed. Not everyone, but enough. The woman smiled, and it was the saddest thing Blackwood had ever seen. Steel widow. The laughter died instantly. Every seal in the room went rigid. The Master Chief stood up so fast his chair scraped against the concrete floor. Jesus Christ, someone breathed. Blackwood felt her stomach drop. What did you say? You heard me? The woman's voice was still quiet, but now there was steel underneath it. Real steel, the kind that had been forged in fire. Steel widow. That's what they called me. That's what I earned. Blackwood's mouth went dry. Your commander, Mara Vale. The woman nodded. SEAL Team 3, retired 2019. But you already knew that, didn't you, Admiral? The floor seemed to tilt beneath Blackwood's feet. Because she did know. She absolutely knew. Ma'am, the Master Chief said, appearing beside Vale like he'd materialized from thin air. Ma'am, I served with your husband. I was there when... I know, Master Chief. Vale's expression softened, just slightly. I know who you are. You wrote me a letter after the funeral. You told me Jack was the best officer you'd ever served under. The Master Chief's eyes were wet. He was, ma'am. He absolutely was. Vale looked back at Blackwood. Do you want to tell them, Admiral, or should I? Commander Vale, this is not the appropriate. When is it appropriate? Vale's voice rose slightly, and the toddler on her hip looked up at her mother with wide, worried eyes. Vale immediately softened, whispering to her daughter, Sorry, baby. Mommy's okay. She looked back up. When is it appropriate to tell the truth? Admiral, at the funeral when they handed me a folded flag and told me my husband died a hero, at the discharge hearing when they told me it was best for everyone if I just went away quietly, or maybe at the therapy sessions when I tried to explain why I couldn't sleep, why I couldn't be in crowds, why every loud noise made me want to dive for cover. Commander, or maybe now, Vale took another step forward. Maybe now is appropriate. When you've just mocked me in front of 200 people for not looking military enough, for having the audacity to show up here with my daughter, for looking tired. A captain with a prosthetic hand pushed through the crowd. Commander Vale, ma'am, I need to... Captain Morrison. Vale's face cracked slightly. You made it out. Because of you, Morrison's voice broke. Because you came back for us when... He looked at Blackwood and his expression hardened. When command said we were expendable. The reporters in the crowd were circling now, cameras up, sensing something massive. Blackwood tried to regain control. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to... Operation Firefall, Vale said clearly. July 14th, 2019. Kunar Province, Afghanistan. Does anyone here remember that designation? Silence. No. Vale looked around. Of course not, because officially it never happened. Officially, there were no American casualties that day. No contractors ambushed. No SEAL team that disobeyed orders to save them. That operation is classified, Blackwood snapped. Everything's classified when it's inconvenient. Vale's words were surgical. But let me tell you what happened, since we're all here to honor sacrifice. She shifted the toddler again, and Blackwood noticed something, the way Vale moved, even exhausted. Even holding a child, she moved like a weapon. Precise, efficient, deadly. There was a convoy, Vale began. 22 Americans, 4 Brits, 3 French, 8 Afghan nationals who'd worked with us for years. They were documenting infrastructure projects, building schools and hospitals and roads, good people doing good work. Commander, you don't need to, Morrison started. Yes, I do. Vale's voice was gentle but firm. They got hit by a Taliban ambush at 1400 hours. 3 IEDs, followed by small arms fire from elevated positions. It was a perfect kill box. Someone had planned it carefully. She looked at Blackwood. My team was on a ridge 200 meters up. We'd been inserted 48 hours earlier for reconnaissance. We weren't supposed to engage, just watch, report, gather intelligence. And you called for authorization, Morrison said quietly. Vale nodded. Lieutenant Commander Jack Vale, my husband, my team leader, he called for authorization to engage. We had clear firing solutions. We could have ended the ambush in minutes. What happened? Someone in the crowd asked. Vale's eyes never left Blackwood's face. The Air Ops commander denied authorization, said the risk to the team wasn't justified, said air support was 15 minutes out and we should hold position. 15 minutes, Morrison said bitterly. They were dead in 7. Not all of them, Vale corrected softly. Some of them took longer. The silence was suffocating. My husband made a choice, Vale continued. He looked at me and he looked at our team and he said, nobody dies alone while we watch. So we went down that mountain, all 6 of us, against orders. That's insubordination, Blackwood said, but her voice had no strength. Yes, Vale agreed. It was. It was also the right thing to do. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was distant, like she was seeing something the rest of them couldn't. Do you know what burning metal smells like, Admiral? What it sounds like when someone's trapped in a vehicle that's cooking off, the screaming, the begging, the way they claw at the windows even when their hands are burning. Jesus, someone whispered. My husband got to the first vehicle. He pulled Captain Morrison out seconds before it exploded. Then he went for the second vehicle. 3 people trapped. He got the door open, got one out, went back for the other 2. Vale's voice cracked. That's when the fuel tank went up. The Master Chief made a sound like he'd been punched. I was 50 meters away, dragging a wounded contractor toward cover. I felt the heat, felt the shockwave, turned around and saw... She stopped, swallowed hard. Saw nothing. Just fire. Just nothing. The toddler on her hip touched her mother's cheek. Mommy. Vale smiled down at her daughter, tears streaming down her face now. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. But she wasn't. Anyone could see she wasn't. 2 of my team members were with him, Vale continued. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reed and Petty Officer First Class David Chen. They went into that fire together. They died together. Ma'am, Morrison said gently. You don't have to... I carried them out. Vale's voice was mechanical now. What was left of them? My medic had been hit by sniper fire during our approach. Dead before he hit the ground. So that was 4. 4 bodies, and pieces of 3 more. I carried them up that mountain one by one while helicopters circled overhead telling me to leave them. How long? Someone asked. Sunrise to sunset, 14 hours. Vale looked at Blackwood. Do you know what it's like to carry someone you love when there's almost nothing left to carry, Admiral? Do you know what it's like to dig through ash and debris looking for dog tags because it's the only way to identify them? Blackwood couldn't speak, couldn't move. I found 2 tags, Vale said. Melted, warped, but I could still read them. Jack Vale, Marcus Reed. David Chen's tags were gone. But I knew who'd been there. She reached into her hoodie and pulled out a chain. 3 dog tags hung from it, warped and blackened. I wear them every day, Vale said simply, so I don't forget. So they're not forgotten. The Master Chief was openly crying now. So were several others. The extraction birds finally landed at sunset. Vale continued. They took the survivors, 12 of them, 12 people who were alive because my husband disobeyed orders. They took them and they tried to leave my dead behind. But you didn't let them, Morrison said. No, Vale's voice was steel again. I didn't. I told the pilot if he left without those bodies, I'd shoot him down myself. He believed me. Because you meant it, the Master Chief said. Because I meant it, Vale agreed. So they loaded the bodies, they loaded me, and they flew us out. I collapsed on the helicopter, woke up 3 days later in Germany with a doctor telling me I was pregnant and my husband was dead. The silence was absolute. You want to know what happened next, Admiral? Vale looked at Blackwood with eyes that had seen hell and walked through it. Want to know what the Navy did for the Steel Widow? Blackwood shook her head mutely. They gave me a medical discharge, said I was unfit for duty due to psychological trauma. They classified the entire operation, sealed the records, made it disappear. Because you know what would have happened if the truth came out? If people knew that an Air Ops commander had denied extraction authorization and caused American deaths. She let the question hang. Careers would end, Vale said softly. Reputations would be destroyed. Someone would have to take responsibility. And we can't have that, can we? The situation was more complex than Blackwood started. Was it? Vale's voice was sharp now. Was it complex, or was it convenient? Convenient to bury the truth. Convenient to make me disappear. Convenient to pretend my husband and his team died in a training accident instead of saving 12 people. That's not what the record says, Blackwood protested weakly. The record is a lie. Vale's words were final. And you know it. Because you were there. You were the Air Ops commander who denied authorization. You were the one who decided those contractors weren't worth saving. You were the one who told us to stand down. The crowd erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Reporters surged forward. SEALs were shouting. The congressman was on his phone. Blackwood stood frozen at the podium watching her entire career implode in real time. Vale turned to walk away. Wait, Blackwood called out. What do you want? Money recognition. What? Vale stopped, turned back, and smiled that terrible, sad smile again. I want my husband's name on a wall somewhere, she said quietly. I want the truth told. I want the record corrected. And I want you, she pointed at Blackwood, to stand up there and admit what you did. I can't do that. Then I'll do it for you. Vale adjusted her daughter on her hip. You've got 72 hours, Admiral. After that, I'm calling a press conference, and I'm bringing evidence you can't deny. You're bluffing. Vale's smile widened. Those contractors were filming a documentary. 4 cameras survived the ambush. The footage has been in a safety deposit box in Virginia for 6 years, along with my full after-action report. The real one. Blackwood's face went white. You wouldn't. Watch me. Vale turned and walked toward the exit. The Master Chief and Morrison fell in behind her, along with a dozen other SEALs. A protective detail, Blackwood realized. They were protecting her. No, she corrected herself. They were following her. Because that's what you did with warriors. You followed them. Even when they looked like tired mothers in stained jeans. Especially then. Vale reached the door and paused. Without turning around, she spoke one last time, her voice carrying through the entire hangar. By the way, Admiral, my daughter's name is Jackie, after her father, Jack Vale, Lieutenant Commander, SEAL Team 3, hero, husband, the man who taught me that some things are worth dying for. She looked back over her shoulder. And some truths are worth living for. Then she was gone. The hangar erupted into chaos. Reporters shouting questions, SEALs arguing, officers on phones, the congressman demanding answers. And Blackwood standing alone at the podium, realizing she'd just gone to war with someone who had absolutely nothing left to lose. Someone who'd already lost everything that mattered. Someone who'd walked through fire and carried the dead home on her back. Steel Widow. The name suddenly made perfect sense. Because steel doesn't bend. It doesn't break. It doesn't forgive. And widows don't forget. A colonel appeared at Blackwood's elbow. Admiral, we need to get you out of here. Now. Why? Blackwood heard herself ask. Because someone recorded everything, the colonel said grimly. The whole exchange. It's already online. CNN picked it up 15 minutes ago. You're trending on Twitter. Hashtag Steel Widow is #1. Blackwood felt the room spin. It gets worse, the colonel continued. Someone leaked Commander Vale's personnel file, the classified one. It's on WikiLeaks. Her entire service record, every mission, every commendation, every report filed against the Air Ops commander on Operation Firefall. That's impossible, Blackwood whispered. Those files are... Someone wanted them public, the colonel said. Someone with access. Someone who's been waiting for this moment. Who? The colonel looked at her. Does it matter? The damage is done. And he was right. Within an hour, every major news outlet in America had the story. Within 2 hours, the Secretary of Defense was calling for a full investigation. Within 3 hours, Admiral Reva Blackwood was relieved of duty, pending review. Within 4 hours, someone leaked the contractor footage. All of it. Every second of that ambush. Every scream. Every explosion. Every moment of terror. And at the end, grainy but unmistakable, a figure carrying bodies up a mountain, one by one, hour after hour, while helicopters circled overhead, while radios crackled with orders to leave them behind, while the sun set on a ridge in Afghanistan where 5 warriors had given everything. The figure was small, exhausted, stumbling under the weight. But she never stopped. She never quit. She carried them home. Steel Widow. The footage went viral within minutes. 50 million views in the first hour. 100 million by morning. And suddenly everyone knew the truth. Everyone knew what Commander Mara Vale had done. Everyone knew what Admiral Reva Blackwood had tried to hide. And the question on everyone's lips was the same. What happens next? Because this wasn't over. This was just beginning. Steel Widow had opened a door that had been sealed for 6 years. And once you open a door like that, you can't close it again. You can only walk through and see what's on the other side, even if it burns you, even if it destroys you, even if it changes everything. Because some truths are bigger than careers, bigger than reputations, bigger than the comfortable lies we tell ourselves about honor and sacrifice and the cost of war. Some truths demand to be told, no matter what. And Mara Vale had just told hers. Now the world would have to decide what to do about it. But that's a story for another time. For now, in a small apartment 40 minutes from Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, a tired woman in jeans tucked her daughter into bed. "Mommy," the little girl asked, "why were those people crying today?" Mara Vale smoothed her daughter's hair. "Because they remembered something important, baby." "What?" "That being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you're terrified." "Like Daddy." "Like Daddy." Mara agreed, her voice thick. "Are you brave, Mommy?" Mara looked at her daughter, this perfect, innocent creature who would grow up without her father, who would only know him through stories and photographs and the weight of his absence. "I'm trying to be," she whispered. She kissed Jackie's forehead and turned out the light. In the darkness, her hand went to the dog tags around her neck. 3 names, 3 warriors, 3 men who'd made an impossible choice and paid for it with everything. "I'm trying," she said again, softer now, to herself, to them, to the ghosts that would never quite leave. "I'm trying." And in that moment alone in the dark, Mara Vale made a decision. She was done being invisible, done being quiet, done letting other people decide what her husband's death meant. She was going to that press conference. She was going to tell the whole truth. Every ugly, beautiful, terrible part of it. And if it destroyed her, so be it. Some things were worth the cost. Some truths demanded to be spoken. And Steel Widow had one more battle to fight. The hardest one of all. Not with weapons or tactics or physical courage, but with words. With truth, with the raw, unfiltered reality of what war costs and who pays the price. She would fight it in front of cameras and reporters and the whole watching world. She would fight it for Jack, for Marcus, for David, for every warrior who'd ever come home in a box, for every family who'd ever been handed a flag and a lie, for every truth that had been buried for convenience. She would fight, and this time she would win, or die trying. Because that's what Steel Widow did. She carried the weight. She spoke the truth. She never quit. Never. The press conference was in 72 hours, and the world was about to learn something important. You can bury the truth for a while. You can silence it. You can classify it and hide it and pretend it never happened. But eventually someone will dig it up. Someone will speak it. Someone will stand in front of the world and say, this is what really happened. And when that someone is a woman who carried 5 bodies up a mountain while her world burned. When that someone has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. When that someone is Steel Widow. You better believe people will listen. And the truth, the real truth, will finally be told. No matter who it destroys. No matter what it costs. Because some prices are worth paying. And Mara Vale had been paying them for 6 years. Now it was someone else's turn. Admiral Reva Blackwood's turn. The Navy's turn. Everyone who'd chosen convenience over truth. Their turn was coming. And Steel Widow was bringing the receipts. All of them. The phone calls started at 3 in the morning. Mara was sitting at her kitchen table, unable to sleep, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. The dog tags lay on the table in front of her, catching the dim light from the street lamp outside. When her phone buzzed, she almost didn't answer. Unknown number, but something made her pick up. Commander Vale, a woman's voice. Young, nervous. Who is this? My name is Sarah Chen. David Chen was my brother. Mara's hand tightened on the phone. David, her weapons specialist. The kid who'd made jokes even under fire, who'd told her the night before the ambush that he was thinking about proposing to his girlfriend when he got home. Sarah, Mara breathed. I saw the video, Sarah said, and her voice cracked. I saw what you did, what you said. My parents, they never knew the truth. The Navy told us David died in a training accident. They said it was quick. They said he didn't suffer. Mara closed her eyes. Sarah, I can't. Was he scared? Sarah asked. When it happened, was he scared? The truth sat heavy on Mara's tongue. Yes, he was terrified. They all were. But David had gone into that fire anyway because that's what warriors did. He was brave, Mara said instead. The bravest person I ever knew. He saved lives that day. He died a hero. The Navy said it was an accident. The Navy lied. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, will you tell the truth at the press conference? All of it. Yes. Good. Sarah's voice was stronger now. Good. Because my parents deserve to know. They deserve to know their son died saving people, not in some stupid accident. They deserve to know he mattered. He did matter, Mara said fiercely. He mattered so much. After Sarah hung up, Mara sat in the darkness and cried. But the calls didn't stop. Marcus Reed's mother called at 4. Jack's old commanding officer called at 5. A reporter from the Washington Post called at 6. By 7, when Jackie woke up asking for breakfast, Mara's phone had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The story was everywhere, and everyone wanted a piece of it. Mara made scrambled eggs with shaking hands while Jackie chattered about a dream she'd had about dolphins. Normal, sweet, innocent. Everything Mara's life hadn't been for 6 years. Mommy, why is your phone making so much noise? Jackie asked through a mouthful of eggs. Just people calling, Mara said. Eat your breakfast, baby. Are they calling about Daddy? Mara's hand froze on the spatula. Why would you think that? Jackie shrugged with the casual wisdom of small children. Because you always look sad when people talk about Daddy, and you looked really sad yesterday. Mara sat down across from her daughter. Jackie, do you remember what I told you about Daddy? About what he did? He was brave. He helped people. That's right. And now everyone's going to know about it. Everyone's going to know what Daddy did. Jackie tilted her head. Is that good? Yes, baby, that's good. But Mara wasn't sure she believed it. Because already the backlash was starting. By noon, conservative news outlets were running stories questioning Mara's credibility. By 1, military bloggers were dissecting her service record, looking for anything to discredit her. By 2, someone had leaked her home address and protesters were gathering outside. Not many, 5 or 6 at first, but they had signs. Support our troops, not liars. Dishonorable discharge means dishonorable person. Vale is a traitor. Mara watched them from the window, Jackie playing with toys behind her, oblivious. Her phone rang again. This time she recognized the number. Captain Morrison. "Ma'am, you need to leave your house," he said without preamble. "Right now." "Why?" "Because someone just posted your address on a military forum with the suggestion that patriots should pay you a visit. There are people threatening you, Commander. Real threats. Credible threats." Mara felt ice slide down her spine. "They wouldn't." "They absolutely would. I'm sending a security detail. Pack a bag. Take your daughter. You're coming to stay at my place until the press conference." "Captain, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking, I'm telling. My wife already made up the guest room. We've got a daughter Jackie's age. They can play together. You'll be safe here." "Morrison, 20 minutes, Commander. Be ready." He hung up. Mara stood frozen for a moment, processing. Then she moved. Fast. Military fast. She threw clothes in a bag for her and Jackie, grabbed the dog tags, grabbed the safety deposit box key she kept hidden in a coffee can, grabbed Jackie's favorite stuffed animal and her daughter's hand. "We're going on an adventure," she told Jackie with forced brightness. "Where?" "To visit some friends. Won't that be fun?" Jackie, bless her, just nodded and asked if she could bring her crayons. The security detail arrived 15 minutes later. 3 SEALs, all retired, all grim-faced. One of them was the Master Chief from the ceremony. "Ma'am," he said, "we're getting you out of here." They moved quickly professionally, surrounding Mara and Jackie as they walked to a black SUV parked at the curb. The protesters shouted but didn't approach, not with 3 SEALs standing between them and their target. As they pulled away, Mara looked back at her small apartment, her safe place, her refuge for 6 years, and wondered if she'd ever feel safe anywhere again. Morrison's house was in a quiet suburb 30 minutes inland. His wife Patricia met them at the door with a smile that was warm but worried. "You must be Mara," she said. "And this is Jackie. My daughter Emma is in the backyard. She's so excited to have someone to play with." Jackie looked up at Mara uncertainly. "It's okay, baby," Mara said. "Go play." The moment Jackie was out of earshot, Patricia's smile faded. "How bad is it?" "Bad," Morrison said. "Death threats, doxing, the whole playbook." "Who's behind it?" Patricia asked. "Does it matter?" Mara said tiredly. "People who don't want the truth told. People who have something to lose if it comes out." Morrison poured coffee. Strong. Black. Military coffee. "We need to talk about the press conference." "What about it?" "You need legal representation. You need a media handler. You need—" "I need to tell the truth," Mara interrupted. "That's all." "Commander, with respect, the truth isn't enough. Not anymore. They're going to come at you hard. They're going to question everything. Your service record, your mental health, your motivations. They're going to paint you as a bitter widow trying to take down a decorated admiral. Then let them." "Ma'am," I said, "let them." Mara's voice was steel. "I didn't start this to protect myself. I started it because I was tired of watching my husband's death be turned into a convenient lie. If they want to destroy me to keep that lie alive, that's their choice. But I'm not backing down." Morrison studied her for a long moment. "You know this is going to cost you everything." "I already lost everything that mattered." "What about Jackie?" The question hit like a punch. Mara looked toward the backyard where her daughter was laughing, playing being a normal 3-year-old. "Jackie deserves to know who her father really was," Mara said quietly. "Not the sanitized version, not the lie, the truth, that her father was a hero who made an impossible choice and paid for it with his life." "Even if telling that truth puts her in danger?" Patricia asked gently. Mara's hands clenched. "They wouldn't." "They already are," Morrison said. He pulled out his phone and showed her a screen. Social media posts, forums, comments sections. Someone should teach that traitor's kid what loyalty means. Like mother, like daughter, both deserve what's coming. Wonder which foster home the kid will end up in when Vale goes to prison for stolen valor. Mara felt sick. "They're trying to scare you," Morrison said. "Trying to make you back down." "Is it working?" Patricia asked. Mara looked at the posts again, at the hate, at the venom, at the very real threats against her daughter. Then she thought about Jack, about the choice he'd made on that ridge, about how he'd known going down that mountain might kill him, but he'd gone anyway, because some things were worth dying for. "No," she said, "it's not working." Morrison smiled grimly. "Good, because I made some calls. You've got support, more than you know." "What kind of support?" "The kind that matters. Other SEALs who served with Jack, contractors who survived that ambush, reporters who want the truth, even some people inside the Pentagon who are tired of the cover-up." He pulled out a folder. "This is everything we've compiled, every record we could find, every witness statement, every piece of evidence that supports your story." Mara opened the folder. It was thick, detailed, professional. "Who put this together?" "People who believe in you," Morrison said simply. "People who know what happened that day wasn't your fault, wasn't Jack's fault. People who are ready to fight." Mara felt something unfamiliar. Hope, maybe, or just the absence of complete despair. "There's something else," Morrison said. He pulled out another document. "This is Admiral Blackwood's service record, the real one, not the sanitized version." Mara read it. Her eyebrows rose. "She's done this before," she said slowly. 3 times, Morrison confirmed. 3 times she's denied extraction authorization when operators were in danger. 3 times she's prioritized political considerations over lives. Your husband's team was just the first time it resulted in American deaths. Why wasn't she removed? Because she's good at covering her tracks, good at making it look like she made the hard but necessary call, good at surviving. "Not this time," Mara said. "Not this time," Morrison agreed. That night, while Jackie slept in the guest room and Mara lay awake staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop now and this goes away. Continue and you'll lose more than your reputation." Mara stared at it for a long time. Then she typed back, "I already lost everything that mattered. You have nothing left to take." Send. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Your daughter hasn't lost everything. Yet." Mara's blood went cold. She was out of bed in seconds, running down the hall to the guest room. Jackie was there sleeping peacefully. Emma in the other twin bed breathing softly. Safe. But for how long? Mara pulled out her phone and called Morrison. "They threatened Jackie," she said without preamble. Silence. Then, "I'll make some calls. We'll increase security. Maybe I should—" "Don't you dare say you should back down," Morrison interrupted. "That's what they want. They want you scared. They want you silent. Don't give them that. But Jackie will be protected. I promise you, Commander. On my life, your daughter will be safe." Mara wanted to believe him. Needed to believe him. But she'd believed in safety before. Believed in the system. Believed that doing the right thing would be enough. And she'd been wrong. The next morning, a lawyer showed up at Morrison's door. Her name was Rebecca Chen. No relation to David, but she'd served in the JAG Corps for 20 years before retiring. "I'm representing you pro bono," she said without preamble. "And before you object, this isn't charity. This is justice. I don't need—" "Yes, you do." Rebecca sat down at the kitchen table and opened her briefcase. "The Navy is already preparing their response. They're going to argue you were mentally unstable when you were discharged. They're going to argue your testimony is unreliable. They're going to argue that releasing classified information makes you a criminal, not a hero. So what do? We get ahead of it. We release everything ourselves, every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. We make it impossible for them to hide behind classification." "That's illegal," Mara said slowly. "So is denying extraction authorization and causing American deaths," Rebecca replied. "So was covering it up. So was forcing you to sign an NDA under duress while you were medically compromised. We're past legal and illegal now, Commander. We're in the realm of right and wrong. And releasing classified information is right. When that information exposes corruption and cost American lives. Yes, it absolutely is." Mara looked at Morrison. He nodded. "She's right, ma'am. We're past the point of playing by their rules. They've already broken every rule that matters. What about the footage? Mara asked. The contractor cameras. Rebecca smiled. Already leaked. Someone anonymously sent the raw files to every major news outlet last night. By noon today, everyone will have seen exactly what happened on that ridge. Who leaked it? Does it matter? Rebecca asked. It's out there. That's what counts. But Mara wondered, because she'd kept that footage secret for 6 years. Only she had known where it was. Only she had the key to that safety deposit box. Except Morrison, she said slowly. Who else knew about the footage? He met her eyes. A lot of people knew it existed, ma'am. The contractors talked about it before they deployed. Their families knew they were filming. But who knew where it was? Silence. Morrison. He sighed. I may have mentioned to a few people that you had evidence, that you were planning to release it at the press conference. And one of those people got impatient, Mara said. Or one of those people wanted to protect you, Rebecca interjected. By releasing the footage now before the press conference, you're no longer the only source. You're no longer the only person who can be threatened or silenced. The truth is out there. Multiple copies, multiple locations. They can't stop it now. Mara wanted to be angry, wanted to feel betrayed that someone had taken the choice away from her, but mostly she just felt tired. What happens now? She asked. Now we prepare, Rebecca said. The press conference is tomorrow at 10. We need to go over your statement, anticipate questions, prepare for attacks. They worked through the afternoon. Rebecca was thorough, almost brutal, in her questioning. They're going to ask why you waited 6 years. What do you say? I say I was broken. I say I needed time to heal. I say I was scared. They're going to say you're lying for attention. I say if I wanted attention, I would have come forward when it mattered. When I could have saved my career, not 6 years later when I'm a civilian who fixes boats. They're going to bring up your mental health. I say yes, I have PTSD. Yes, I have. Yes, I've been in therapy. Yes, I've struggled. And I say that doesn't make me a liar. It makes me human. Rebecca nodded approvingly. Good. What about Admiral Blackwood? What about her? They're going to ask if you blame her. Mara was quiet for a long moment. I blame a system that prioritizes politics over lives. I blame a culture that punishes people for telling the truth. I blame everyone who knew what happened and chose to stay silent. Including yourself, Rebecca asked gently. Especially myself. That night, Mara couldn't sleep again. She wandered into the living room and found Morrison there also awake, staring at nothing. Can't shut your brain off either, she asked. He shook his head. Keep thinking about that day, about how close we came to losing everyone. You were really there. First vehicle, driver's seat. Your husband pulled me out seconds before it went up. Morrison looked at his prosthetic hand. Lost this. Lost my driver. Lost my hearing in one ear. But I'm alive because of Jack Vale. He would have said he was just doing his job. That's what made him a good officer. Morrison smiled slightly. He never acted like he was special. Never acted like he was doing anything extraordinary. Just doing the job. That's why I loved him, Mara said softly. He was good. Not perfect. Not a saint. Just good. He tried to do the right thing even when it was hard. Like someone else I know. Mara laughed bitterly. I'm not good. I'm angry and broken and barely holding it together. You're fighting, Morrison said. That's what matters. You're standing up when it would be easier to stay down. That's courage, ma'am. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Morrison said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Why now? Why after 6 years did you decide to speak up? Mara thought about it, about the ceremony, about Blackwood's mocking smile, about the way everyone had looked at her like she was nothing. Because I looked at my daughter, she said finally. And I realized she was going to grow up in a world that told her women like me don't matter. That sacrifice only counts if it looks a certain way. That heroes are supposed to be polished and perfect, not tired mothers in stained jeans. She paused. And I couldn't let her believe that. I couldn't let her grow up thinking her father died in a training accident, that his death meant nothing, that he was nothing. So, you started a war. I finished one, Mara corrected. This war started 6 years ago when someone decided the truth was less important than protecting careers. I'm just the one who refused to let it end quietly. Morrison raised his coffee mug. To finishing wars. Mara clinked her cup against his. To finishing wars. But she wondered as she sat there in the darkness if this war could ever really be finished, or if she'd just opened a door that would never close again. At 8 the next morning, 2 hours before the press conference, Mara's phone rang. It was Admiral Blackwood. "Commander Vale," she said, her voice tight. "I'm calling to offer you a deal." "I'm listening." "Withdraw your allegations. Cancel the press conference. In exchange, I'll personally ensure your husband and his team are properly honored. A memorial, their names on the wall, full military honors. Everything you wanted. And the truth will remain classified for national security reasons." Mara almost laughed. National security, is that what we're calling it now? "Commander, please, think about your daughter. Think about your future. You can have what you want without destroying everything." "Except I can't," Mara said, "because what I want is the truth. All of it. Not a sanitized version, not a compromise. The truth." "You're making a mistake. That's my choice to make." "Is it?" Blackwood's voice went cold. "Is it your choice when it affects your daughter? When it affects your safety? When it affects—" "Are you threatening me, Admiral?" "Silence. I'm offering you a way out," Blackwood said finally. "Take it." "No." "Then you'll have no one to blame but yourself for what happens next." The line went dead. Mara sat holding the phone, her hand shaking. Rebecca, who'd heard the whole thing on speaker, looked grim. "She's scared." "Good." "No, Commander, you don't understand. Scared people do desperate things. We need to be careful." "It's too late for careful," Mara said. "We're past that now." At 9:30, they left for the press conference. The venue was a hotel conference room downtown. Rebecca had chosen it specifically because it was public visible and hard to cancel at the last minute. When they arrived, the parking lot was chaos. News vans, cameras, protesters on both sides, some supporting Mara, some calling her a traitor. "Commander Vale," a reporter shouted. "Is it true you stole classified documents?" "Commander, did you sell the footage to the media? Commander, are you working with foreign governments?" Morrison and 2 other SEALs formed a protective barrier pushing through the crowd. Inside, the conference room was packed, every seat filled. Cameras lined the back wall, reporters jockeying for position. Rebecca leaned in close. "You ready?" Mara looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at the hungry faces waiting to tear her apart or build her up depending on which story sold better. She thought about Jack, about Marcus, about David, about Jackie, safe at Morrison's house watching cartoons with Emma, about 6 years of silence, about the weight of carrying the dead, about the heavier weight of carrying the truth. "I'm ready," she said. But as she walked toward the podium, as the cameras flashed and the crowd surged forward, as Rebecca began reading a prepared statement about evidence and classified operations and the public's right to know, the lights went out. All of them. Complete darkness. For 3 seconds, that felt like forever. Then emergency lighting kicked in, dim and red. And in that eerie glow, Mara saw something that made her blood freeze. Admiral Blackwood, standing in the back of the room, watching her with eyes that promised nothing good. And beside her, 2 men in dark suits, not reporters, not military. Something else. Something worse. Rebecca grabbed Mara's arm. "We need to leave. Now." "What? Why?" Those men with Blackwood. I recognize one of them. Naval intelligence. The kind that makes problems disappear. Morrison was already moving, positioning himself between Mara and the back of the room, but the doors, all of them, were blocked now, by more men in suits. By security guards who definitely didn't work for the hotel. By people who had decided this press conference wasn't going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Blackwood's voice carried through the room, amplified somehow despite the power outage. I apologize for the disruption. Unfortunately, this event cannot proceed. Commander Vale is wanted for questioning regarding the theft of classified materials. She needs to come with us. That's bullshit, someone shouted. A reporter, maybe. Or a SEAL. This is a lawful order, Blackwood continued. Commander Vale, you can come voluntarily, or we can make this difficult. Mara stood frozen. This was it. The moment she'd known was coming, but hadn't wanted to believe. They were going to silence her, one way or another. But before she could respond, before Morrison could move, before Rebecca could object, every phone in the room started buzzing at once. Text messages, alerts, notifications. People pulled out their phones, faces illuminated in the dim red light, and the reaction was immediate. Gasps, curses, shocked exclamations. What the hell? Is this real? Oh my God! Blackwood's face went pale. What's happening? Rebecca looked at her phone and smiled. Actually smiled. She held it up so Mara could see. It was a live stream, already at 2 million viewers and climbing. And on that stream, crystal clear and unmistakable, was Mara, standing in the conference room. But not just Mara. Someone had hacked into the hotel's security cameras and was broadcasting everything, every word, every face, every moment, including Admiral Blackwood's attempt to shut down the press conference. It's already out there, Rebecca said loudly for everyone to hear. Everything, the footage, the documents, Commander Vale's full statement, it's all being live-streamed right now to millions of people. You can't stop it. You can't hide it. It's done. Blackwood's face twisted. Who? Does it matter? Mara said, finding her voice, finding her strength. It's over, Admiral. The truth is out. Everyone knows what you did, what you tried to hide, what you were willing to do to keep it hidden. You have no idea what you've done, Blackwood hissed. I know exactly what I've done, Mara said. I've told the truth. Finally. After 6 years of living in a lie. And you know what? It feels good. She walked toward the podium, and this time, no one stopped her. Morrison fell in beside her, protective, but not controlling. Rebecca took her place on the other side, and Mara looked into the cameras, the ones that were still working, that were broadcasting to the world, and she began to speak. My name is Commander Mara Vale, and this is what really happened on July 14th, 2019. Mara's voice was steady as she spoke into the cameras, but her hands gripped the podium hard enough to leave marks. At 1400 hours on July 14th, 2019, a convoy of civilian contractors was ambushed in Kunar province. 3 IEDs followed by coordinated small arms fire. My team was 200 meters up on reconnaissance. We had clear lines of sight. We called for authorization to engage. The room was dead silent now. Even the men in suits had stopped moving. Lieutenant Commander Jack Vale, my husband, my team leader, made 3 requests for permission to intervene. 3 times he was denied by the Air Ops Commander. Mara looked directly at Blackwood. Admiral Reva Blackwood told us to hold position, told us air support was 15 minutes out, told us the risk wasn't justified. That's classified, Blackwood started. Not anymore, Rebecca interrupted. As of 10 minutes ago, the Department of Defense Inspector General received a full classified disclosure package from Commander Vale. It's legal, it's protected, and it's done. Blackwood's face went from pale to red. You can't... I already did. Mara's voice was cold. 7 minutes into the ambush, Lieutenant Commander Vale made a decision. He said we weren't watching Americans die while we had the ability to help, so we went down that mountain. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer, harder to hear. Everyone in the room leaned forward. My husband reached the first vehicle and pulled Captain Morrison out seconds before it exploded. Then he went for the second vehicle, 3 people trapped inside. The vehicle was burning. The ammunition was cooking off. But Jack didn't hesitate. Morrison spoke up from beside her. He got the door open, got one person out, went back for the other 2. That's when the fuel tank went up. Killing him and 2 members of my team instantly, Mara continued. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reed, Petty Officer First Class David Chen. They died saving strangers. They died because they believed American lives were worth saving even when command said otherwise. A reporter in the front row raised her hand. Commander Vale, are you saying Admiral Blackwood is directly responsible for their deaths? I'm saying she made a choice, and that choice had consequences. That's not fair, Blackwood tried again. Fair. Mara's voice cut like a blade. You want to talk about fair? My husband didn't get to see his daughter born. Marcus Reed's mother got a flag and a lie. David Chen's girlfriend got a letter saying he died in a training accident. That's not fair, Admiral. That's cowardice. The live stream viewer count was at 8 million now. Blackwood moved forward, the men in suits flanking her. This woman is emotionally compromised. She's been diagnosed with PTSD. Her testimony is unreliable. I'm broken, Mara interrupted. Yes, I have PTSD. Yes, I've spent 6 years in therapy trying to sleep without dreaming about fire. Yes, but that doesn't make me a liar. It makes me someone who survived something that should have killed me and has to live with it every single day. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small USB drive. This contains the full after-action report I wrote in the hospital before the Navy classified everything. It contains testimony from every survivor of that ambush. It contains the raw footage from 4 contractor cameras that captured the entire event. And as of right now, it's been uploaded to 17 different servers in 9 different countries. You can't classify it. You can't bury it. It's public record now. Rebecca stepped forward. Additionally, we've filed a formal complaint with the Inspector General, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and the House Oversight Committee. There will be a full investigation. Admiral Blackwood's entire service record is being reviewed, and Commander Vale is protected as a whistleblower under federal law. She stole classified materials, Blackwood shouted. She disclosed government misconduct, Rebecca corrected. There's a difference. And the courts have consistently ruled that whistleblowers who expose illegal activity or gross negligence are protected. This isn't negligence. This is operational security. This is murder. Morrison's voice boomed through the room. You let good men die to protect your career. That's not operational security. That's criminal negligence at best and depraved indifference at worst. The men in suits moved toward Morrison, but other SEALs in the crowd stood up. 10, 20, 30, all of them moving to form a wall between Morrison and the suits. You want to get to him, you go through us, one of them said. Blackwood looked around wildly. The room was turning against her. The cameras were catching everything. The live stream was global now. This is treason, she said desperately. All of you, this is treason. No, a voice said from the back of the room. This is justice. Everyone turned. An older man in a Navy uniform walked forward, stars on his collar, 3 of them. Vice Admiral Thomas Crawford, former SEAL, current Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare. Admiral Crawford, Blackwood said with obvious relief. Thank God, you need to arrest these people. I need to do nothing of the sort, Crawford said quietly. He walked past Blackwood without looking at her and stopped in front of Mara. Commander Vale, I owe you an apology. Mara stared at him. Sir, I was briefed on Operation Firefall in 2020. I was told it was a clean operation with no American casualties. I was told the team that was lost died in a separate incident. I was lied to. He turned to face the cameras. And as of this morning when I saw the contractor footage, I realized the entire chain of command was lied to. Or worse, complicit in covering it up. Admiral Crawford, you can't possibly believe, Blackwood started. I've reviewed the radio transcripts. Crawford cut her off. The ones that were supposed to be destroyed but somehow survived. I've heard Lieutenant Commander Vale's requests for authorization. I've heard your denials. And I've heard your order to leave the bodies behind during extraction. The room erupted. Blackwood's face went white. Those transcripts are classified at the highest level. How did you? Someone sent them to me this morning, anonymously, along with 17 other incidents where you denied critical support to operators in the field. Crawford's voice was ice. You have a pattern, Admiral Blackwood. A pattern of prioritizing political considerations over operator safety. And it ends today. You have no authority. I have every authority. Crawford pulled out a document. As of EO 800 this morning, by order of the Secretary of Defense, you are relieved of all duties pending a full investigation. You are to surrender your credentials and report to Naval Investigative Services immediately. Blackwood stood frozen. This is a witch hunt. This is accountability, Crawford said. Finally. The men in suits melted away. Without Blackwood's authority, they had no reason to be there. Blackwood looked at Mara with pure hatred. You've destroyed me. No, Mara said quietly. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped letting you get away with it. Blackwood turned and walked out, her career and reputation in ruins. The room exploded with questions, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, everyone trying to get a statement. Crawford raised his hand. Commander Vale will take questions. But I want everyone here to understand something. This woman is a hero. She saved 12 lives under fire. She carried her dead teammates off a mountain while under orders to leave them. She spent 6 years living with trauma and loss while the institution that should have supported her instead tried to silence her. And today she stood up and told the truth when it would have been easier and safer to stay quiet. That's the definition of courage. He turned to Mara. Commander, on behalf of the United States Navy and Naval Special Warfare Command, I apologize. We failed you. We failed your husband. We failed every operator who was there that day, and we will do better. Mara felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not here. Thank you, sir. Crawford stepped aside and Mara faced the cameras alone. Questions, she said. Hands shot up everywhere. She pointed to a woman in the front row. Commander Vale, what do you want to happen now? I want my husband's name on the wall at the Naval Special Warfare Memorial. I want his team recognized for their sacrifice. I want the truth in the official record. And I want systemic changes so this never happens to another family. Do you blame Admiral Blackwood? Mara hesitated. I blame a system that allowed her to make those choices without accountability. I blame a culture that prioritizes image over integrity. But yes, I blame her too. She had a choice. She chose wrong. And people died because of it. Are you seeking financial compensation? No. This isn't about money, it's about truth. What about your daughter? How will you explain this to her? Mara's voice softened. I'll tell her the truth. That her father was brave. That he made an impossible choice and saved lives. That he's a hero. And that heroes don't always come home. A reporter in back shouted, Commander, there are reports that you suffered a mental breakdown after your husband's death. How can we trust your version of events? Morrison started to move, but Mara held up her hand. You're right, she said calmly. I did break down. I spent 3 months in psychiatric care. I was diagnosed with PTSD, survivor's guilt, and major depression. I attempted suicide twice. The room went silent. But you know what? Mara continued. That doesn't make me a liar. That makes me human. It makes me someone who experienced trauma and struggled with it. And frankly, if I hadn't broken down after what I went through, that would be more concerning. The fact that I survived, got help, and rebuilt my life doesn't discredit me. It proves I'm strong enough to face the truth, even when it hurts. Rebecca was nodding approvingly. Another question. What evidence do you have that the Navy tried to cover this up? I signed a non-disclosure agreement while I was medically compromised and on heavy psychiatric medication. That agreement was legally questionable at best. I was threatened with prosecution if I ever spoke about what happened. My husband's death was officially listed as a training accident despite the fact that I personally carried his remains off a combat ridge. The entire operation was classified at a level that prevented any congressional oversight, and every attempt I made to correct the record was blocked. Mara's voice was steady. That's not normal operational security. That's a cover-up. Why wait 6 years? Because I was broken. Because I had a newborn daughter who needed me. Because I was scared. Because the Navy convinced me that speaking out would dishonor my husband's memory and endanger national security. She paused. But mostly because I didn't think anyone would believe me. I didn't think a tired widow with PTSD could take on the entire military establishment and win. What changed? Mara thought about the ceremony, about Blackwood's mocking smile, about looking at Jackie and realizing what kind of world she was creating for her daughter. I got tired of being invisible, she said simply. I got tired of watching my husband's death be turned into a convenient lie. I got tired of living with the weight of silence. So I decided to speak, and I decided that whatever happened, at least I'd know I tried. Are you worried about retaliation? I've been receiving death threats for 3 days. Someone posted my home address online. People have suggested my daughter should be taken away from me. So yes, I'm worried. But I'm more worried about living in a country where telling the truth about military misconduct makes you a target instead of a hero. Crawford stepped forward again. For the record, Commander Vale and her daughter are under protective custody. Anyone who threatens them will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and I've personally requested FBI involvement in tracking down the sources of these threats. More questions flew. Mara answered them mechanically, staying calm, staying focused even as exhaustion pulled at her. Finally, after an hour, Rebecca called an end to it. Commander Vale needs to rest. She'll be available for follow-up interviews tomorrow. Thank you. As they pushed through the crowd toward the exit, a young SEAL caught Mara's arm. Ma'am, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I just finished BUDS last month. My instructor told us about Steel Widow, about what you did. He said you were the toughest operator he'd ever seen. Said you carried 5 bodies up a mountain and never complained once. Said you were what we should all aspire to be. Mara felt something crack inside her chest. What's your name? Petty Officer James Chen, ma'am. Mara's breath caught. Chen? Yes, ma'am. David Chen was my uncle. When he died, my family was told it was an accident. But my dad never believed it. He said Uncle David was too good to die in training. He said something else must have happened. The young man's eyes were wet. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for letting us know he died a hero. Mara pulled him into a hug. Protocol be damned. Your uncle was the bravest person I ever knew. He saved lives that day. He mattered. So do you, ma'am, Chen said quietly. So do you. Outside the hotel, the crowd was even bigger. Protesters, supporters, media, everyone pushing to get close. Morrison and his team formed a tight circle around Mara, pushing through toward the SUV. Someone threw something, a bottle. It shattered against Morrison's shoulder. Traitor, someone screamed. You're destroying the military. But other voices rose too. Thank you, Commander. You're a hero. Steel Widow. The chant started small but grew. Steel Widow, Steel Widow, Steel Widow. Mara climbed into the SUV, shaking. Rebecca got in beside her. You did it, Rebecca said. You actually did it. Did I? Mara asked. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears, distant. Did I accomplish anything, or did I just paint a target on my back? You changed the conversation, Rebecca said firmly. Before today, the Navy could hide behind classification. Now they can't. Before today, Admiral Blackwood could keep making decisions that killed operators. Now she can't. Before today, your husband's death meant nothing officially. Now everyone knows the truth. The SUV pulled away from the hotel. Mara watched the crowd fade behind them. Her phone buzzed. Morrison's wife. Jackie's fine. She fell asleep watching Frozen. She doesn't know anything happened. Thank God. Mara texted back, be there in 30 minutes. But they didn't make it 30 minutes. 10 minutes from Morrison's house, the SUV behind them, the one with 2 more SEALs, started flashing its lights. What's wrong? Morrison asked, pulling over. The other SEAL ran up to their window. Sir, we're being followed. Black sedan, 2 occupants. They've been on us since we left the hotel. Morrison's face hardened. How far back? Quarter mile. They're hanging back, but they're definitely tracking us. Can you lose them? Not without putting Commander Vale at risk. Mara's stomach dropped. My daughter. Morrison pulled out his phone calling his wife. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. Patricia always answers, he said, his voice tight. Always. He tried again. Nothing. Go, Mara said. Now, fast. Morrison floored it. The SUV behind them did the same, moving to block the sedan. They covered the remaining distance in 6 minutes. Morrison didn't even fully stop before Mara was out of the vehicle running for the front door. It was open. Not just unlocked. Open. Patricia, Morrison shouted, pushing past Mara. Patricia, Emma. Silence. Then from upstairs, a small voice. Daddy! Morrison took the stairs 3 at a time. Mara was right behind him. Emma was in her room crying. Alone. Where's Mommy? Morrison asked, trying to keep his voice calm. The men took her. And Jackie. They said Mommy had to go with them. They said Jackie's mommy was bad and Jackie needed to go somewhere safe. Mara felt the world tilt. What men? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. They had suits and badges. They said they were from the government. Morrison was already on his phone. I need law enforcement at my location now. Possible kidnapping. Federal agents possibly involved. Yes, I'm serious. Yes, I know how it sounds. Mara couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Her daughter. Someone had taken her daughter. How long ago? She managed to ask Emma. I don't know. They told me to stay in my room. I was scared. Rebecca burst through the door. What happened? Someone took Jackie, Mara said. The words felt unreal. Someone took my daughter and Patricia. Child Protective Services, Rebecca asked. Maybe, or someone pretending to be. Morrison's face was murderous. Emma, what exactly did they say? They said Jackie wasn't safe with her mommy, that her mommy was sick and dangerous, that they needed to take her somewhere she'd be protected. Mara's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. Commander Vale, a man's voice, professional, cold. Where is my daughter? Your daughter is safe. She's being evaluated by mental health professionals to determine if you're a fit parent. You can't do that. You need a court order. We have one signed this morning by a federal judge based on your documented mental health issues, your recent erratic behavior, and concerns about your daughter's safety given the current circumstances. That's bullshit, Mara screamed. That's kidnapping. It's protective custody. If you cooperate with the investigation and submit to a full psychiatric evaluation, you'll have a chance to see her again. If you continue this public campaign against Admiral Blackwood and the Navy, well, the judge may decide your daughter is better off elsewhere. Mara's vision went red. If you hurt her, no one's hurting anyone, Commander. We're protecting a child from an unstable parent. It's really quite simple. Drop your allegations, stop the media campaign, admit you were wrong, and you'll get your daughter back. And if I don't, then you'll lose more than your daughter. You'll lose everything. Your freedom, your reputation, your sanity. We'll paint you as an unhinged widow who snapped and fabricated an entire story to get revenge on her late husband's commander. And your daughter, she'll grow up knowing her mother was too selfish to choose her over a vendetta. The line went dead. Mara stood frozen, the phone in her hand. Morrison took it gently. We'll find her, I promise. We'll find her. But Mara wasn't listening. She was thinking about Jackie, about her daughter crying for her, about strangers holding her, telling her mommy was bad, mommy was sick, mommy wasn't coming. They want me to stop, she said quietly. So we don't stop, Rebecca said firmly. We fight this. I'll file emergency motions. I'll call every judge I know. They have my daughter. Mara's voice was empty. They have my little girl, and they'll keep her until I give them what they want. Commander, what would you do? Mara asked, looking at Rebecca. If it was your child, what would you do? Rebecca didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. You can fight the system. You can expose corruption. You can be brave and righteous and correct. But when they take your child, none of that matters anymore. Mara walked to the window and looked out at the quiet suburban street. Somewhere out there, Jackie was scared and confused and calling for her mother. and Mara had a choice: fight for the truth and lose her daughter, or surrender and get her back. It wasn't even a question. "Call them back," she said. "Tell them I'll stop. Tell them I'll retract everything. Tell them whatever they want to hear. Just give me my daughter back." "Commander, you can't," Morrison started. "Watch me." Rebecca put a hand on her arm. "If you back down now, they win. Everything you've done, everything you've sacrificed, means nothing if I lose Jackie." Mara's voice broke. "Don't you understand? I lost Jack. I lost my team. I lost 6 years of my life to grief and trauma and silence. I am not losing my daughter too." "But the truth can go to hell," Mara said viciously. "I don't care anymore. I don't care about justice or honor or any of it. I just want my baby back." Crawford's voice came from the doorway. "And that's exactly what they're counting on." Mara spun around. "Sir." Crawford walked in, his face grim. "I've been making calls. The judge who signed that custody order, he's Admiral Blackwood's brother-in-law. The CPS agents who took your daughter, they don't exist in the system. No case file, no paperwork, nothing." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't official. This is a black op. Someone grabbed your daughter and Morrison's wife to force you to back down. It's illegal, it's kidnapping, and it's prosecutable. But Jackie is probably terrified but unharmed. They need her alive and well to use as leverage, which means we have time." "Time for what?" Mara asked desperately. Crawford smiled, and it was cold as winter. "Time to find out who took them and remind those people that you don't threaten a SEAL's family and walk away." Morrison's expression matched Crawford's. "I'll make some calls." "So will I," Crawford said. "In the meantime, Commander Vale, you need to keep fighting. Keep the pressure on. Make it impossible for them to quietly make this go away. But if I do that, they won't hurt your daughter," Crawford said with certainty. "Because the second they do this, goes from a leverage play to a murder conspiracy. They're not that stupid." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've been playing this game for 30 years, Crawford said, "and I know how it works. They grabbed your daughter to scare you, to break you, to make you quit. But if you quit, they win. And everyone who ever thought about standing up to corruption will learn that the price is too high." "I don't care about everyone," Mara said. "I care about my daughter." "Then fight for her." Crawford's voice was steel. "Fight like you fought on that mountain. Fight like you fought at that press conference. Fight like the Steel Widow I've heard so much about. Because giving up won't get her back. It'll just teach them that kidnapping works." Mara wanted to argue, wanted to scream that he didn't understand, that he wasn't a parent, that he couldn't possibly know what this felt like. But she looked at Morrison, and she saw a man whose wife had been taken too, and she saw him standing tall, ready to fight. She looked at Rebecca, who was already pulling out her phone, making calls, building a case. She looked at Crawford, a 3-star admiral who'd put his career on the line to support her. And she thought about Jack, about the choice he'd made on that ridge, about how he'd known going down that mountain might kill him. But he'd gone anyway, because some things were worth the risk. Some truths were worth the cost, and some fights couldn't be abandoned no matter how much they hurt. "Okay," Mara said quietly. "Okay, I'll fight. But we find Jackie. Today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today." Crawford nodded. "I've already got people working on it. Every SEAL, every operator, every person who believes in what you're doing, they're all looking. We'll find her. And when we do," Crawford's smile was predatory, "when we do, everyone involved in taking her is going to learn a very hard lesson about crossing naval special warfare." Morrison cracked his knuckles. "I'm looking forward to teaching that lesson." Mara took a deep breath, then another. The panic was still there, screaming that her daughter was gone, but she pushed it down. She'd survived worse. She'd survived losing Jack. She'd survived this. And whoever had taken Jackie was about to learn what happened when you threatened a mother who had nothing left to lose. Especially when that mother was Steel Widow. 40 minutes later, Morrison's living room had transformed into a command center. Laptops covered every surface. Phones rang constantly. SEALs came and went, bringing information, making connections, calling in favors from 20 years of service. Mara sat in the middle of it all, feeling useless and desperate in equal measure. Crawford was on his phone with someone at NCIS. Rebecca was filing emergency motions with 3 different courts. Morrison had his own network activated. Retired operators, active-duty contacts, people who owed him. "Ma'am," a young SEAL said, approaching Mara carefully. "We've been tracking the black sedan that followed you from the hotel. Traffic cameras picked it up heading north on the interstate. We lost it near Camp Pendleton, but we're working on it." "Camp Pendleton?" Mara's head snapped up. "That's a military base. Which means whoever took your daughter has military connections or access," the SEAL confirmed. "Narrows the search." Crawford finished his call and turned to the room. "NCIS is officially investigating Patricia Morrison's disappearance. They can't touch the child custody issue yet that requires different jurisdiction, but kidnapping a military spouse gives them authority to move." "How long?" Morrison asked, his voice tight. "They're mobilizing now. But realistically, 4 to 6 hours before they have boots on the ground searching." "That's too long," Mara said. "Jackie's 3 years old. She's terrified. She doesn't understand what's happening. 4 hours might as well be 4 years to her." "I know," Crawford said gently, "but we're doing everything we can through official channels." "Then we use unofficial channels," Morrison said flatly. Crawford looked at him for a long moment. "I didn't hear that." "Good," Morrison replied, "because you're not going to hear what comes next either." He turned to the SEALs in the room. "Anyone who wants to walk away, do it now. No judgment. But if you stay, you're accepting that what we're about to do might end your career." Nobody moved. Morrison smiled grimly. "Okay then, Master Chief, what do we have?" The Master Chief pulled up a map on one of the laptops. "Based on traffic camera data and some educated guessing, the sedan went dark in this area. 3 possible locations within a 5-mile radius that would work for holding 2 people short-term. An abandoned warehouse owned by a defense contractor, a private security company's training facility, and a safe house that's been used by naval intelligence for sensitive operations." "Naval intelligence," Mara repeated. "Admiral Blackwood's people." "Maybe, maybe not, but it's worth checking." Crawford's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went pale. "We have a problem." "What now?" Rebecca asked. "Admiral Blackwood just held a press conference. She's claiming Commander Vale fabricated evidence and threatened her family. She's saying the Navy will pursue criminal charges for theft of classified materials, making false official statements, and conspiracy." "That's insane," Rebecca said. "We have proof. She has the Navy's PR machine," Crawford interrupted, "and she's using it. She's painting Vale as an unstable widow who's having a breakdown. She's suggesting the daughter was removed for her own protection. And she's got 3 officers who are willing to testify that Vale has been erratic and potentially dangerous." Mara laughed bitterly. "Of course she does, because that's how it works, right? Tell the truth and you're crazy. Stay silent and you're complicit. There's no winning." "There's always winning," Morrison said. "You just have to be willing to pay the price." His phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression changed. "Say that again," he said slowly. Then, "You're sure? Absolutely sure?" A pause. Okay, we're moving." He hung up and looked at Mara. "We found them." Mara was on her feet instantly. "Where?" "The safe house. Naval intelligence facility about 20 minutes from here. My contact inside just confirmed 2 females matching Patricia and Jackie's descriptions were brought in 3 hours ago." "Then let's go," Mara said, already moving toward the door. Crawford caught her arm. "Commander, wait. This is a federal facility. We can't just storm in there. Watch me. If you do this, you're finished. Criminal charges, federal prosecution. You'll never see your daughter again except through prison visiting room glass." "I don't care." "Yes, you do," Crawford said firmly. "You care because Jackie needs a mother who's free, not incarcerated, so we do this smart." "How?" Mara demanded. "How do we do this smart when they have my daughter locked up in a black site?" Crawford pulled out his phone. I make a call. I use every bit of rank and authority I have. I demand immediate access to that facility for a welfare check. And if they refuse or delay, I have enough evidence to suggest they're operating outside legal boundaries. And if that doesn't work, Crawford smiled coldly, then I let Morrison and his team do what they do best. He made the call. Mara listened to him speak in that calm, authoritative voice that expected to be obeyed. This is Vice Admiral Crawford, Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare. I need to speak with the Commanding Officer of Naval Intelligence Facility Delta 7 immediately. Yes, I'll hold. No, this is not a request. Silence while he waited. Then his expression hardened. I don't care what your operational security protocols are. I have credible information that 2 civilians, one of them, a minor child, are being held at your facility without proper legal authority. I am ordering an immediate welfare check. You have 30 minutes to comply, or I'm bringing in NCIS, FBI, and the Inspector General. More silence. Crawford's jaw clenched. You want to play that game? Fine. I'm also informing you that if anything happens to those civilians, I will personally ensure that everyone involved spends the rest of their careers in Leavenworth. Do you understand me? Good. 30 minutes. He hung up and looked at Mara. They're stalling, claiming they need authorization from higher up. Which means they're moving Jackie, Morrison said, getting her out before we can confirm she was ever there. Can they do that? Rebecca asked. Just disappear a child. They're doing it right now, Crawford said grimly. We need to move faster than official channels allow. Morrison was already gathering his team. Master Chief, get the vehicles. 4 operators per vehicle. Full kit. Sir, the Master Chief said carefully, if we do this, we're talking about assaulting a federal facility. That's not just career ending. That's federal prison. My wife is in there, Morrison said flatly. Commander Vale's daughter is in there. So either you're in or you're out, but decide now. Every SEAL in the room nodded. Okay then, Morrison said. We roll in 5 minutes. Rules of engagement: non-lethal force only, unless lives are in immediate danger. We're there to extract 2 civilians, not start a war. Everyone clear? Clear. Mara grabbed Morrison's arm. I'm coming with you. Ma'am, with respect. She's my daughter. I'm coming. Morrison looked at Crawford. Crawford sighed. I can't officially sanction any of this. In fact, I was never here. I never heard this plan. As far as anyone knows, I'm at the base dealing with paperwork. Understood, sir, Morrison said. But unofficially, Crawford's expression was steel. Bring those civilians home, whatever it takes. They moved fast. 3 black SUVs, 12 operators. Mara in the lead vehicle with Morrison. As they drove, Morrison handed her a vest. Kevlar, put it on. I don't need. Put it on, or you stay in the vehicle. Your choice. Mara put it on. Morrison's radio crackled. We're getting chatter on naval intelligence channels. They know we're coming. Of course they do, Morrison muttered. How much time? Maybe 15 minutes before they can mobilize serious opposition. The facility only has a skeleton security force on site. That's because it's supposed to be secret, Mara said. How many people? Unknown. Could be 6, could be 20. We won't know until we're inside. The Master Chief's voice came through. We've got a problem. There's a convoy leaving the facility. 2 vehicles, SUVs, moving fast. That's them, Mara said with certainty. That's Jackie. Morrison made a decision. All vehicles pursue that convoy. We split up. Team 1 on the convoy. Teams 2 and 3 secure the facility. Go. The lead SUV peeled off following the convoy at high speed. Mara's vehicle was Team 1. They caught up to the convoy within 3 minutes. 2 black SUVs' windows tinted, moving at exactly the speed limit. Professional. Controlled. Box them in, Morrison ordered. Their 3 vehicles surrounded the convoy. Front, back, sides, forcing them to slow. The convoy tried to evade, took a hard right down a side street. Morrison's driver stayed with them. They're heading for the highway. If they get there, we lose them in traffic. Don't let that happen, Morrison said. The Master Chief's vehicle pulled ahead, blocking the intersection. The convoy had to brake hard to avoid collision. Morrison's vehicle pulled alongside the lead SUV. He rolled down his window and held up his military ID. Federal agents exit the vehicles now. The SUVs didn't move. We can do this easy or hard, Morrison shouted. But you're not leaving with those civilians. The passenger door of the lead SUV opened. A man stepped out. Suit, sunglasses, hand near his jacket. You have no authority here, he said. I have all the authority I need, Morrison replied. You've kidnapped a child and a military spouse. You're in violation of federal law. Now open the vehicle and release them, or I'm calling in local PD, FBI, and every news crew in a 50-mile radius. Do that, and the child gets transferred to CPS. You'll never see her again. Mara was out of her vehicle before Morrison could stop her. She walked straight up to the man, ignoring the way his hand moved toward his weapon. Where is my daughter? Ma'am, you need to step back. Where is Jackie? Mara's voice was deadly calm. Tell me right now, or I swear to God, I will make you regret every decision that led to this moment. The man smirked. You're going to assault a federal agent that'll look great in court. Mara smiled, and it was terrible. I've killed 17 people. I carried 5 bodies up a mountain. I survived hell that would break you in an hour. You really think I'm scared of a man in a cheap suit? The smirk faded. Last chance, Mara said. My daughter, now. The man looked past her at Morrison and the 12 armed SEALs forming a perimeter. He made a calculation. Wrong one. He reached for his weapon. Morrison was faster, had the man disarmed and on the ground in under 2 seconds. Anyone else want to be stupid? Morrison asked the remaining occupants of the vehicles. Silence. The Master Chief moved to the second SUV and opened the rear door. Patricia Morrison was inside, hands zip-tied tape over her mouth, scared but unharmed, and beside her, crying silently, was Jackie. Mara's knees almost gave out. She ran to the vehicle, reaching for her daughter. Baby, it's okay. Mommy's here. Mommy's got you. Jackie's eyes went wide. Mommy. Yes, baby. I'm here. I'm right here. The Master Chief cut Patricia's restraints first, then carefully removed the tape from her mouth. Thank God. Patricia gasped. Thank God you found us. Are you hurt? Morrison asked, his voice shaking slightly. No. Scared but not hurt. They kept saying it was for our protection, that Commander Vale was dangerous, that we needed to be kept away from her. Mara was fumbling with Jackie's seatbelt, her hands shaking so badly she could barely manage it. Morrison helped. I got it, ma'am. I got it. He lifted Jackie out and handed her to Mara. Mara held her daughter like she was made of glass and gold and everything precious in the world. I'm sorry, she whispered into Jackie's hair. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry they scared you. Jackie clung to her mother with desperate strength. They said you were bad. They said I couldn't see you anymore. They lied, Mara said fiercely. I would never leave you. Never. Do you understand? Nothing could ever make me leave you. The man on the ground spoke up. You're making a huge mistake. You've just assaulted federal agents and interfered with a lawful custody order. Shut up, Morrison said without heat. You kidnapped a 3-year-old child to blackmail her mother into silence. You used a fake court order from a corrupt judge. You operated outside legal boundaries. And now you're going to answer for it. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Admiral Crawford, we have them. Both civilians recovered unharmed, requesting immediate NCIS and FBI presence at our location. Then he looked at Mara. It's over. You got her back. But Mara knew it wasn't over. Not even close. Because the man on the ground was smiling. You think this changes anything, he said. You think rescuing one kid stops what's coming? Admiral Blackwood has already filed criminal charges. The Navy has issued a warrant for Commander Vale's arrest. And every second you delay turning yourself in makes it worse. I don't care, Mara said. I have my daughter. That's all that matters. For now, the man agreed. But what happens tomorrow, next week, next month? You can't hide forever. And they will come for you. They will destroy you. And this time they'll take your daughter somewhere you'll never find her. Rebecca's voice came through Morrison's phone on speaker. Don't listen to him. I've been filing motions non-stop. The custody order was thrown out 20 minutes ago. The judge who signed it is under investigation, and I've got 3 senators calling for a full inquiry into Naval Intelligence's activities. Doesn't matter, the man said. The machine is already moving. You can't stop it. Maybe not, Mara said. But I can fight it, and I will. For as long as it takes. Sirens approached. Multiple vehicles. NCIS is here, Morrison said, and FBI, and looks like local PD too. The next 2 hours were chaos. Statements given. Evidence collected. The men who'd taken Jackie and Patricia arrested and taken away in handcuffs. A female FBI agent knelt down to Jackie's level. Hi, sweetie. My name is Agent Martinez. I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? Jackie clung tighter to Mara. I want Mommy. Mommy can stay right here, Martinez assured her. She's not going anywhere. The questions were gentle but thorough. Jackie described being taken from Morrison's house by men with badges, being driven for a long time, being kept in a room with Mrs. Morrison, being told her mommy was sick and couldn't take care of her anymore. With each answer, Mara felt rage building in her chest. They'd traumatized her daughter, used her as a weapon, terrified a 3-year-old child to silence the truth, and someone was going to pay for that. When the FBI finished, Crawford arrived with a convoy of his own, Navy lawyers, public affairs officers, people whose job was to manage the fallout. Commander Vale, one of the lawyers, said, "We need to discuss your legal situation." "My legal situation is that I told the truth and powerful people tried to destroy me for it," Mara said bluntly. "That's my situation. The charges Admiral Blackwood filed are politically motivated and without merit," Rebecca interrupted, "and I'm prepared to argue that in any court in the country." "The Secretary of the Navy has requested a meeting with Commander Vale," another officer said. "Tomorrow morning, Washington, D.C. "Why?" Mara asked suspiciously. "To discuss a resolution. An offer is being prepared." "What kind of offer?" "One that benefits everyone involved. Details to follow." After they left, Mara sat in Morrison's SUV with Jackie asleep in her lap, finally exhausted enough to rest. Morrison leaned against the vehicle. "They're going to try to buy you off, offer you money, honors whatever it takes to make this go away quietly." "I don't want their money." "I know, but think about it. Think about what's best for Jackie. A settlement could give her a stable future, college fund, security." "At the cost of the truth?" Mara asked. "Maybe the truth and stability don't have to be mutually exclusive," Patricia offered. She'd been checked by paramedics and cleared. "Maybe you can get both." Mara looked down at her daughter, at the tear tracks on her little face, at the way she held Mara's shirt in a death grip even in sleep. "I'll hear what they have to say," she said finally. "But I'm not promising anything." That night, back at Morrison's house with extra security posted outside, Mara lay in bed with Jackie curled against her chest. Her phone buzzed with messages, hundreds of them, supporters, critics, media requests, people sharing her story, defending her, attacking her. But one message stood out. From an unknown number: "You won today, but tomorrow is another battle, and the next day, and the day after. How long can you fight? How long can you put your daughter through this? Think about it." Mara deleted it without responding. She knew the answer. She could fight forever, because that's what mothers did. They fought for their children until they couldn't fight anymore. And even then, they found a way to keep going. The meeting in Washington was set for 10 in the morning. Mara had 12 hours to decide what she was willing to accept, what compromise she could live with, what price she'd pay for peace. But as she held Jackie and felt her daughter's heartbeat against her own, she realized something. Peace without truth wasn't peace. It was just another kind of prison. And she'd been in prison for 6 years. She wasn't going back. Not for money, not for promises, not for anything. Tomorrow she'd walk into that meeting, and she'd tell them exactly what she wanted. The truth on record. Her husband's name honored. Systemic changes to prevent this from happening again. And Admiral Blackwood held accountable for every decision that led to Jack's death. Nothing less, nothing more. Just justice. Finally. She closed her eyes and thought about Jack. About the last thing he'd said to her before going down that mountain. Some fights you can't walk away from, Mare, even when you're scared, even when you might lose. Because winning isn't always about survival. Sometimes it's about standing up and saying this is wrong, even when nobody else will. He'd been right. And tomorrow she was going to stand up one more time. For him, for Jackie, for every person who'd ever been silenced for telling the truth. Steel Widow wasn't done fighting. She was just getting started. The next morning, Mara dressed carefully. Not in her old uniform, she'd left that life behind. Not in jeans and a hoodie, this required respect if not submission. She wore simple black slacks and a gray blouse, professional, serious, the dog tags around her neck visible against the fabric. Jackie stayed with Patricia and Emma with Morrison and a 4-man security detail watching over them. Mara kissed her daughter goodbye. "I'll be back tonight, baby." "Promise?" Jackie asked, still clingy after yesterday's trauma. "Promise. Nothing could keep me away from you. Nothing." The flight to DC was short. Rebecca came with her along with 2 JAG lawyers Crawford had insisted on. They went over strategy, talking points, lines that couldn't be crossed. But Mara was barely listening. She was thinking about that ridge in Afghanistan, about the choice Jack had made, about how he'd known the risks and gone anyway. Because some things were worth dying for, and some truths were worth any cost to tell. The meeting was at the Pentagon, in a conference room designed to impress and intimidate with its flags and photographs of military history. Waiting for them was the Secretary of the Navy, a 3-star admiral, 2 lawyers, and Admiral Blackwood. Mara felt her spine stiffen at the sight of Blackwood. The woman looked composed, confident, like she was the one in control here. "Commander Vale," the secretary said, standing to greet her. "Thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" Mara asked. "There's always a choice," he replied. "Please sit." They sat across from each other, a long, polished table between them. "Let me be direct," the secretary began. "Yesterday's events were unfortunate. The custody situation was handled poorly. We acknowledge that." "You mean the kidnapping of my daughter?" Mara said flatly. "The individuals responsible have been removed from their positions pending investigation." The secretary continued, ignoring her clarification. "But we need to discuss the larger situation. Your allegations against Admiral Blackwood, the classified information you've released, the damage to Navy readiness and morale." "The truth," Mara corrected. "You mean the truth I've told." "Your version of events," Blackwood interjected. Mara looked at her. "Is there another version, one where my husband didn't die after you denied extraction authorization, one where I didn't carry 5 bodies off a mountain while you ordered me to leave them? Please, Admiral, enlighten me." Blackwood's jaw clenched. The secretary raised a hand. "We're here to find a solution, not relitigate the past." "The past is the problem," Mara said. "The past that was covered up. The past that was classified to protect careers instead of honor the dead. Which is why we're prepared to offer a comprehensive settlement," one of the lawyers said. He slid a document across the table. Mara picked it up and read. "Financial compensation. 7 figures. Full military honors for Lieutenant Commander Jack Vale and his team. Their names added to the memorial wall. A formal apology from the Navy. And in exchange, Mara would sign an NDA covering all aspects of Operation Firefall. She would cease all media appearances. She would make no further allegations against Admiral Blackwood or any Navy personnel." "This is generous," the lawyer said. "More than generous. You'd be set for life. Your daughter's education funded, your future secure." Mara set the document down carefully. "And the truth?" she asked. "What happens to that?" "The truth is complicated," the secretary said. "Operational security requires—" "The truth is simple," Mara interrupted. "Admiral Blackwood made a decision that cost lives. That decision was covered up, and that cover-up has allowed her to continue making decisions that endanger operators. That's the truth, and you want me to bury it for money." "We want you to accept that some battles can't be won," the 3-star admiral said gently. "You fought hard. You've been brave. But continuing this fight will destroy you. Take the settlement. Honor your husband. Move on with your life. Mara looked at each of them in turn. Then she looked at Admiral Blackwood. What do you want? She asked the woman directly. Really want? Blackwood met her eyes. I want you to understand that I made the best decision I could with the information I had. That second-guessing command decisions from the comfort of hindsight is easy. That war is complicated and people die, and sometimes there are no good choices. You're right, Mara said quietly. Sometimes there are no good choices, just impossible ones. Like the choice my husband made to go down that mountain. Like the choice I made to carry our dead home. Like the choice I'm making right now. She stood up. I'm not signing this. Silence. Commander, the secretary said, please reconsider. This offer won't come again. Good, Mara replied. Because I don't want it. I don't want money. I don't want your apology. I want accountability. I want systemic change. I want every operator to know that if they make the hard right choice instead of the easy wrong one, the Navy will back them, not bury them. She picked up the document and set it in front of Blackwood. You want this to go away? Then admit what you did. Take responsibility. Step down and let the Navy start rebuilding trust with the people who risk everything in its name. That's not going to happen, Blackwood said coldly. Then neither is my silence, Mara replied. She turned to leave. Commander Vale, the secretary said, if you walk out that door, the Navy will pursue every legal option available. You'll be prosecuted for theft of classified materials. You'll be sued for defamation. You'll spend the rest of your life fighting in court. Then I guess I better get comfortable with courtrooms, Mara said. Think about your daughter, Blackwood called after her. Mara stopped, turned back slowly. I am thinking about my daughter, she said, her voice deadly quiet. I'm thinking about what world I want her to grow up in. One where power protects itself at any cost, where telling the truth makes you the enemy, where justice is negotiable if you're important enough. She shook her head. No, I'm thinking about my daughter, which is exactly why I'm walking away from your blood money. She left the room with Rebecca and the JAG lawyers scrambling to follow. In the hallway, Rebecca grabbed her arm. Do you understand what you just did? They're going to destroy you. Sure, they're going to try, Mara corrected. But I've got something they don't. What's that? The truth. And people who believe in it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Crawford. Hearing you walked out. Good. Because I just got authorization for a full Inspector General investigation into Admiral Blackwood's entire command history. Every decision, every operation, everything. It's happening. Mara showed the text to Rebecca. Rebecca's eyes widened. How did he? Because there are still good people in the system, Mara said. People who believe in accountability. People who are tired of watching corruption hide behind classification. They walked out of the Pentagon into bright sunshine. Reporters were waiting, cameras ready. Commander Vale, did you reach a settlement? Commander, what happens now? Mara stopped and faced them. I was just offered 7 figures to stay quiet about what happened to my husband, to accept that some truths are inconvenient, to let the people responsible continue making decisions that endanger the lives of operators. She paused, making sure every camera was on her. I said no, because my husband's life was worth more than money, because the truth is worth more than comfort, because justice delayed isn't justice at all. It's just another kind of cover-up. What will you do now? A reporter asked. Keep fighting, Mara said simply. Keep telling the truth. Keep pushing for accountability, for as long as it takes. Are you worried about the legal consequences? Mara smiled. I've survived worse than lawyers. I think I'll manage. She walked to the waiting SUV, leaving the reporters shouting questions behind her. Inside the vehicle, she finally let herself breathe. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest, Rebecca said. Can it be both? Mara asked. Her phone rang. Morrison. Just saw the news, he said. You walked away from the settlement. I did. Good, because I just heard from 50 other SEALs. All of them want to testify about their own experiences with questionable command decisions. All of them ready to back you up. Mara felt something warm bloom in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the knowledge that she wasn't alone. "Tell them thank you," she said. "Tell them yourself. We're holding a press conference tomorrow. You, me, everyone who's ready to speak truth to power. You started this, Commander. Now we're finishing it." After Morrison hung up, Mara looked at Rebecca. "Tomorrow," she said, "we do this right. We tell all of it. Every story, every cover-up, every operator who was betrayed by the system that should have protected them." "That's going to open a lot of old wounds," Rebecca warned. "Good," Mara said, "because wounds that aren't cleaned don't heal. They fester, and the Navy has been festering for too long." That night, flying back to California, Mara thought about Jack, about his laugh, his terrible jokes, the way he'd hold her and make her feel safe. She thought about the last time she'd seen him alive, gearing up to go down that mountain knowing it might kill him. He'd looked at her and smiled. "Love you, Mare. No matter what happens, I love you." Those were his last words to her. Not fear, not regret, just love. And that's what Mara held on to now, as she flew toward an uncertain future with legal battles and public scrutiny and people who wanted to destroy her. Jack had loved her enough to make the hard choice. Now she was loving him enough to see it through, all the way, whatever it cost. Because some loves were worth fighting for, even after death. Especially then. When Mara landed back in San Diego, it was almost midnight. Jackie was already asleep at Morrison's house, but Mara needed to see her daughter before she could rest. Patricia opened the door before Mara could knock. "She's been asking for you every hour. I told her you'd be back." "Thank you," Mara said quietly. "For everything. For keeping her safe." "You'd do the same for Emma," Patricia replied. "That's what family does." Mara walked upstairs to the guest room where Jackie slept, curled around her stuffed rabbit. She looked so small, so fragile, so unbearably precious. Mara sat on the edge of the bed and touched her daughter's hair gently. Jackie stirred, eyes opening. "Mommy, I'm here, baby. You came back. I promised, didn't I? I always keep my promises." Jackie sat up and wrapped her arms around Mara's neck with desperate strength. "Don't leave again. Please don't leave." "I'm not going anywhere," Mara whispered, though she knew it might be a lie. Because if the Navy prosecuted her, if she went to prison, she'd be leaving Jackie in the worst possible way. But she pushed that thought away and held her daughter until Jackie fell back asleep. Downstairs, Morrison was waiting with coffee and a grim expression. Crawford called. "The Inspector General's investigation officially starts Monday. They're subpoenaing records going back 10 years. Every mission Blackwood touched, every decision she made." "How long will it take?" Mara asked. "Months, probably. Maybe a year. These things don't move fast." "I don't have a year," Mara said. "The Navy's going to come after me hard. Criminal charges, civil suits. They'll try to bury me in legal fees and court dates until I give up." "So we move faster," Rebecca said, walking in from the kitchen. "The press conference tomorrow puts public pressure on them, makes it politically toxic to prosecute a whistleblower who exposed corruption. Unless they successfully paint me as mentally unstable," Mara countered, "which is exactly what they're trying to do." "Then we get ahead of it," Rebecca said. "I've arranged for you to sit down with 60 Minutes next week, full hour. Tell your story in your own words. Show them you're not some unhinged widow. You're a warrior who survived hell and refused to let the truth die with your husband." Mara wanted to say no, wanted to hide with Jackie and pretend the world outside didn't exist. But Jack's voice was in her head again. Some fights you can't walk away from. "Okay," she said. "I'll do the interview." The press conference the next morning was held at the marina where Mara worked. Fitting, Morrison said, because it showed she'd built a real life after the military. She wasn't living in the past. She was trying to move forward while carrying the weight of truth. 53 SEALs showed up, active duty and retired. Some Mara knew, most she didn't. They stood behind her as she faced the cameras and the reporters and the whole watching world. My name is Commander Mara Vale. She began, her voice steady despite the exhaustion pulling at her. 6 years ago, I lost my husband and 4 teammates in Afghanistan. Yesterday, I walked away from $7 million because the price was my silence. Today, I'm here with warriors who have their own stories about command failures and cover-ups, and we're not staying silent anymore. She stepped aside and Morrison took the microphone. I'm Captain David Morrison. On July 14, 2019, Commander Vale's husband pulled me from a burning vehicle seconds before it exploded. He saved my life. Then he died trying to save others while Command watched from safety and did nothing. Another SEAL stepped forward, young, maybe 25. I'm Petty Officer James Chen. My uncle David died that day. My family was told it was a training accident. We buried him thinking he'd made a stupid mistake. Now I know he died a hero, and I'm standing here to make sure everyone else knows it too. One by one they spoke. A retired Master Chief who'd had extraction denied during a mission in Iraq. A female SEAL who'd reported sexual assault by a senior officer and been quietly discharged. A sniper who'd watched his spotter bleed out while Command debated whether the political fallout of a rescue was worth it. Story after story. Truth after truth. By the time they finished, reporters were crying. Cameras were shaking in operators' hands. The internet was exploding, and Admiral Blackwood's career was over whether she admitted it or not. That afternoon, the Secretary of the Navy held his own press conference. In light of recent allegations, Admiral Reva Blackwood has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. The Navy takes these matters seriously and is committed to transparency and accountability. Translation: they were throwing Blackwood overboard to save the institution. Mara watched it on Morrison's TV and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion and the knowledge that this still wasn't over. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Commander Vale. A woman's voice. Older, tired. Yes. My name is Margaret Reed. Marcus was my son. Mara's throat closed up. Marcus, her weapons specialist. The kid who'd always had a joke ready, who'd died going into fire with Jack. Mrs. Reed, Mara managed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't save him. I didn't call for an apology, Margaret said gently. I called to say thank you, for telling the truth, for making sure Marcus didn't die for nothing, for giving me back my son's honor. Mara couldn't speak through the tears. The Navy told me he died in a training accident, Margaret continued. They said it was quick, painless. I knew they were lying. A mother knows. But I didn't have proof, didn't have the strength to fight them. Her voice cracked. You did. You fought for all of them. And I need you to know that matters. It matters so much. He was brave, Mara whispered. He went into that fire knowing he might not come out. But he went anyway because that's who he was. Tell me, Margaret said. Tell me everything. I want to know how my son died. The truth this time. So Mara told her. All of it. The ambush. The denied authorization. Jack's decision to go down anyway. Marcus's courage. The explosion. The aftermath. Margaret cried. So did Mara. When they finally hung up, Mara felt something shift inside her chest. Not healing that would take years if it ever came at all. But maybe the beginning of something like peace. Because Margaret was right. It mattered. The truth mattered. Even when it hurt. Especially then. The 60 Minutes interview aired the following Sunday. 63 million people watched. Mara sat in a studio across from a veteran journalist who asked hard questions without cruelty. You've been diagnosed with PTSD. How do we know your memories of that day are accurate? Because I wrote a detailed after-action report the day after it happened. Because there's footage from 4 different cameras. Because 12 people survived that ambush, and they all tell the same story. My PTSD doesn't make me a liar. It makes me someone who lived through trauma and has to carry it. What do you want people to understand about what happened? That war is complicated. That command decisions have consequences. That the people making those decisions should be held accountable when they're wrong. And that silence protects the guilty while punishing the brave. Do you regret speaking out? Mara thought about Jackie, about the kidnapping, about the death threats, and the legal battles ahead. Every day, she said honestly. But I'd regret staying silent more. What's next for you? I'm going to keep fighting for systemic change, for accountability, for every operator who's been betrayed by the system that should protect them. And I'm going to raise my daughter to know her father was a hero who died doing the right thing. The interview ended with footage of Jack. Home videos Mara had provided, him laughing with his team, training, being human and brave and flawed and good. The last shot was of his name being added to the memorial wall at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. They'd finally done it, finally honored him properly. Lieutenant Commander Jack Vale, SEAL Team 3, died saving others. The response to the interview was overwhelming. Social media exploded with support. Veterans groups rallied behind Mara. Congress announced hearings. The Inspector General accelerated the investigation. But the Navy also filed charges: theft of classified materials, making false official statements, unauthorized disclosure. Rebecca filed motions to dismiss, argued whistleblower protections, fought every charge. The legal battle would take years. Mara knew that, accepted it, because some fights were worth the cost. 3 months later, Admiral Blackwood resigned. The official statement said she was retiring after a distinguished career. The unofficial truth was that the Inspector General had found patterns of negligence going back 15 years. 3 operations where she'd prioritized political considerations over operator safety. 17 instances where she'd denied critical support to teams in the field. She wasn't criminally charged. The Navy protected its own even in disgrace, but her career was done. Crawford called Mara personally to tell her. "It's not enough," he said. "She should face prosecution, but it's something." "It's accountability," Mara replied. "Finally. That's all I ever wanted." "What about you, the charges?" "Still pending. Rebecca thinks they'll eventually drop them. Bad optics prosecuting a whistleblower after everything that's come out. But it'll take time." "You holding up okay?" Mara looked at Jackie, who was coloring at the kitchen table, singing to herself. Happy, safe, healing from the trauma of being taken. "I'm surviving," Mara said. "That's all I can do." 6 months after the press conference, the Navy officially cleared Jack's record, changed the cause of death from training accident to killed in action, posthumously awarded him the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism. Marcus Reed and David Chen received the same honors. Their families were invited to a ceremony. Formal, respectful. Everything it should have been, 6 years ago. Mara wore her dress uniform for the first time since her discharge. It felt strange, foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. But Jackie was there wearing a little dress and holding Mara's hand, and that made it bearable. The Secretary of the Navy himself presented the medals. He looked Mara in the eye and said, "I'm sorry for all of it, for what you lost, for how you were treated, for the years you spent carrying this alone. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't bring them back," Mara said quietly. "No," he agreed. "But maybe it's a start toward being better, toward changing a culture that allowed this to happen." After the ceremony, Margaret Reed pulled Mara into a hug. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me my son back." David Chen's mother was there too, along with his brother, the young SEAL who'd spoken at the press conference. "David would be proud of you," she told Mara, "for not giving up, for fighting for the truth." The families of the other 2 team members who'd died, the medic and the operator hit by sniper fire, came as well. They all stood together in the memorial garden where the names of the fallen were carved in black granite. Jack's name, Marcus's, David's, all the others who'd given everything. "They mattered," Mara said to no one in particular. "They all mattered." "Because you made sure they did," Morrison replied. He'd stood beside her through everything, him and Patricia both. Family in all the ways that counted. That night alone with Jackie after the ceremony, Mara pulled out the box she'd kept hidden for 6 years. Jack's personal effects, his wallet, his watch, letters he'd written her from deployment. "Mommy, what's that?" Jackie asked. Letters from your daddy, Mara said. Want to hear one? Jackie nodded, eyes wide. Mara opened the first letter dated 3 weeks before Jack died. My darling mare, she read aloud. I miss you more than words can say. Miss your laugh. Miss the way you make terrible coffee and pretend it's good. Miss everything about our life together. But I'm doing important work here. Work that matters. And I need you to know that if something happens to me, I don't regret any of it. Not one mission. Not one choice. Because this is what I'm meant to do. Protect people who can't protect themselves. Stand between the innocent and those who'd harm them. Be the kind of man our kid can be proud of. Mara's voice cracked, but she continued. Tell our baby if it's a boy or girl, I don't care. Tell them I love them before I even met them. Tell them their dad was trying to make the world a little safer, a little better. Tell them that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you're terrified. And Mare, I love you. Forever. No matter what. Always, Jack. Jackie was crying. So was Mara. Daddy loved us, Jackie said. So much, Mara agreed. More than anything. Do you think he knows about what you did, about telling everyone the truth? Mara pulled her daughter close. I think he knows. And I think he's proud. I'm proud of you too, Mommy. Those simple words, spoken in a child's innocent voice, broke something loose in Mara's chest. All the years of grief, of guilt, of carrying the weight alone, all the fear and pain and doubt. It didn't disappear. It would never disappear. But it shifted. Became something she could live with instead of something that was killing her slowly. Thank you, baby, she whispered. Thank you. A year after the press conference, Congress passed the Operator Protection Act, new oversight for command decisions involving teams in the field, mandatory reviews of any operation where extraction authorization was denied, whistleblower protections for military personnel reporting negligence or misconduct. It wasn't perfect, laws never were, but it was something. A step toward preventing another family from going through what Mara had endured. The Navy invited her to testify before the committee drafting the regulations. She spoke for 2 hours, answering questions, sharing her experience, pushing for the strongest possible protections. How do we prevent retaliation? A senator asked. You make it more painful to retaliate than to accept accountability, Mara replied. You prosecute people who try to silence whistleblowers. You strip them of rank and pension and everything they value. You make it clear that corruption will cost them everything. Some would say that's too harsh. Some people haven't carried 5 bodies up a mountain, Mara said flatly. I have. And I'm telling you that nothing is too harsh for people who prioritize their careers over operator lives. The committee chair nodded slowly. We'll take your recommendations under advisement. 2 years after the press conference, all charges against Mara were officially dropped. Rebecca threw a party. Small, just close friends and a few key supporters. You won, she told Mara. You actually won. Did I? Mara asked. She'd gained justice, but lost so much in the process. Her privacy, her anonymity, years of her life to legal battles and public scrutiny. Yes, Crawford said firmly. He'd become a friend through all of this, a mentor of sorts. You exposed corruption. You changed policy. You gave your husband the honor he deserved. That's winning. It doesn't feel like winning, Mara admitted. It feels like surviving. Sometimes they're the same thing, Morrison said. And sometimes surviving is enough. 3 years after the press conference, Mara started speaking publicly about PTSD and military mental health, sharing her story of breakdown and recovery, advocating for better support systems for veterans. I attempted suicide twice after Jack died, she told an audience at a veterans conference. I spent 3 months in psychiatric care. I had nightmares every night for 2 years. I couldn't be in crowds or loud places. I couldn't look at fire without panicking. I was broken. She paused, making eye contact with the veterans in the audience. But broken doesn't mean useless. Broken doesn't mean weak. Broken means you survived something that should have killed you. And if you're still here, still fighting, still getting up every day, that's strength, that's courage, that's everything. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, dozens of veterans came up to her, thanked her, shared their own struggles, asked for advice. She gave it as best she could, knowing she didn't have all the answers, but maybe having enough to help some of them. 4 years after the press conference, Jackie started first grade. On the first day of school, her teacher asked each student to share something about their family. Jackie stood up with the confidence of a child who'd been raised by a warrior. "My daddy was a hero," she said clearly. "He died saving people in Afghanistan. And my mommy is a hero too, because she told the truth when everyone said she should stay quiet. She says being brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared. And that's what our family does. We do the right thing." The teacher called Mara that afternoon. "Your daughter is remarkable," she said. "Where does she get that strength?" "From her father," Mara replied. "And from knowing that some things are worth fighting for." 5 years after the press conference, Mara was invited to speak at the Naval Academy graduation. She stood at the podium looking at hundreds of young faces, future officers, future leaders, people who would make life and death decisions for operators in the field. "You're about to take an oath," she told them, "to support and defend the Constitution, to bear true faith and allegiance, to obey the orders of those appointed over you. It's a sacred oath, but it's not absolute." She let that sink in. Because someday, you're going to get an order that's wrong, an order that violates your conscience, an order that will cost lives unnecessarily. And when that day comes, you have a choice. Follow the order and live with the consequences. Or stand up and say no. She looked out at the sea of faces. 5 years ago, my husband got an order to stand down while American civilians died. He disobeyed that order. He saved 12 lives and lost his own. The Navy tried to bury what he did because it was inconvenient, because it made someone important look bad. Her voice hardened. Don't let that be your legacy. When you're in command, when you're making decisions that affect operators in the field, remember that those are real people with families who love them. They're not chess pieces. They're not expendable. They're warriors who trust you to have their backs. Don't betray that trust. Not for politics, not for careers, not for anything. She stepped away from the podium and looked at them one more time. Be better than the people who failed my husband. Be the kind of leaders who deserve the loyalty you'll be given. That's all I ask. The applause was thunderous. Later, the commandant of the Naval Academy pulled her aside. That was the most important speech these midshipmen will hear in their 4 years here, he said. Thank you. Will it change anything? Mara asked. It already has, he replied. You changed everything the day you stood up and refused to stay silent. 6 years after the press conference, 7 years after Jack died, Mara took Jackie to Afghanistan. Not to the ridge where Jack had fallen. That was still too dangerous, too remote. But to Kabul. To meet some of the contractors who'd survived that ambush. To see the country Jack had died trying to help. One of the survivors, a man named Robert who'd been driving the lead vehicle, met them at a small cafe. He looked at Jackie, and his eyes filled with tears. Your father saved my life, he told her. I was trapped in a burning vehicle. I couldn't get out. I was going to die. And then your dad appeared like an angel and pulled me free. Seconds later, the whole thing exploded. Jackie listened with the seriousness of a 7-year-old trying to understand death and heroism. Was he scared? She asked. Terrified, Robert said honestly. We both were. But he did it anyway. That's what made him a hero. Not that he wasn't afraid. That he acted in spite of the fear. Mommy says that too, Jackie replied. She says being brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Your mommy's right, Robert said. He looked at Mara. Thank you for telling the truth, for making sure everyone knew what really happened. It matters. It matters more than you know. On the flight home, Jackie fell asleep against Mara's shoulder. Mara looked down at her daughter, this beautiful, strong, resilient child who'd been shaped by loss, but not broken by it, and felt something that might have been peace. Not happiness. That seemed too far away still. But peace. Acceptance. The knowledge that she'd done everything she could, fought as hard as possible, honored Jack's memory the only way that mattered, by telling the truth, by refusing to let him be forgotten, by raising their daughter to understand that some things were worth any cost. 7 years after this press conference on the anniversary of Jack's death, Mara took Jackie to the memorial wall. They stood in front of Jack's name carved in black granite along with thousands of others who'd given everything. "Do you miss him?" Jackie asked. "Every day," Mara admitted. "Every single day." "Me too, even though I never met him." "You're so much like him," Mara said softly. "Your courage, your kindness, your sense of right and wrong. He'd be so proud of you." "Would he be proud of you?" Mara thought about that question, about everything she'd done, the fights she'd picked, the prices she'd paid. "I think so," she said finally. "I hope so." They stood there in silence for a long time, just a mother and daughter honoring a man they'd both lost. Finally, Jackie spoke. "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be like you and Daddy. I want to be brave. I want to help people. I want to do the right thing even when it's hard." Mara pulled her daughter close, tears streaming down her face. "Then you will, baby. You will." Because that was Jack's real legacy. Not the medals or the honors or the name on the wall, but a daughter who understood what it meant to stand up for truth, to fight for justice, to be brave even when the whole world said to be quiet. That was worth everything. Worth the pain and the struggle and the years of fighting. Worth all of it. Mara touched the cold granite where Jack's name was carved and felt for the first time in 7 years like she could finally breathe without the weight crushing her chest. "We did it," she whispered to him. "We told the truth. We made them listen. We changed things. And Jack, she's perfect. She's everything we hoped she'd be. Strong and brave and good." The wind stirred her hair, and for just a moment, Mara could almost imagine it was Jack's hand touching her face one last time. "I love you," she said. "Always. Forever. No matter what." And then she took Jackie's hand and walked away from the memorial wall, not leaving Jack behind. Never that, but moving forward, living, being the mother Jackie needed and the warrior Jack had believed she was. Steel widow. The woman who'd carried the dead home and refused to let the truth die with them. The woman who'd fought an entire institution and won. The woman who'd proven that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. And as Mara walked into the sunlight with her daughter beside her, she knew that was enough. That was everything. That was justice. Finally.